Hey guys, welcome back to the Gulf Coast Growth Show. I'm your host, Jason Lee. My co-host, Zeke Smith, is out today because we actually have two guests joining us today, both from the Houston Business Journal, and Miss Naomi Klinge, who is one of their energy reporters, and then Casey Kiesewetter.
Kiesewetter,
Right?
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Kiesewetter, the Vice President of Marketing. First of all, huge fans of HBJ. They've always been a fantastic partner of the Economic Alliance. I think one of the things that really speaks to our region in and of itself is just the economic hub that's Houston, but also the collaboration that goes on between, editorial magazines like yourself and all the information that you bring to the marketplace, and then organizations like us, and, institutions like us that go out and serve the community, but then also put on joint events, collaborative things to help keep people informed of all the great stuff that's happening. One thing I will tell you, which is kind of funny, I want to kick this off because I love HBJ. I asked my AI, right, to help simplify my news every day so that I wouldn't have to try to scroll through everything. So I said, hey, build out an AI, like a daily, just download from what's happening in the local media. And so it went out to all these different sources, and it says, capture that. It said local and regional. And then for some reason it went to all these other things, but it didn't say, HBJ. And I said, and I was like, hey, you can't leave out.
You got to get the HBJ
out.
HBJ.
Yeah. Like, what are we doing here, AI? You call yourself super intelligent, right?
Yeah.
But you're missing the boat if you're missing HBJ. So again, glad to have you guys here. And today we're going to talk about manufacturing, right? Like really I think you just told me a minute ago, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I think a lot of people forget because people think about oil and gas, and they think about LNG, and then they think about the med center, but that we're a pretty big manufacturing hub out in this marketplace. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And so I'll fire off first, Casey. Tell me a little bit about your background, your experience with the journal, and then and tell me some of your insight in regards to what's happening in manufacturing in Houston.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Casey Kiesewetter, Vice President of Advertising Marketing at HBJ. Been with HBJ for about 9 years now. Just before this, we're talking about the manufacturing sector, and Naomi and I were talking about how really it's risen in the past 18 months. Everything that's happening with the reshoring of jobs here, as well as just the investments coming from Apple, Eli Lilly, $6.5 billion to develop their manufacturing facility here. There's so many businesses that are just flooding the marketplace, also from a national level, but also from a worldwide too. So it's just something that we definitely want to stay ahead of the curve of, and continue to, as you mentioned, inform our audience, inform the business community of what's going on here in the Houston's manufacturing industry, which directly and indirectly, affects the oil and gas companies that you were talking about, all the other different sectors here in the region. So it's exciting times.
And Naomi, you specialize in energy when it comes to your reporting and where your focus is at. Tell us a little bit about your role, what you do day in and day out, and then tell us specifically about what you've heard about what makes manufacturing such a big deal in Houston.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been at Houston Business Journal for 2.5, going on 3 years now, covering all things energy and industrial. So that's oil and gas to renewable energy to utilities, manufacturing, chemicals, supply chain, really everything that happens in this region in terms of the industry, that's something that I'm covering.
Wow.
So with manufacturing, though, what I think is really interesting is, like you said, Houston has always been the energy capital of the world, a huge oil and gas energy hub, but a big part of that has always been manufacturing. So Houston businesses are manufacturing products and equipment for the oil and gas industry. We also have the petrochemical industry here on the Ship Channel, where companies are manufacturing the actual oil and gas products. After we produce and extract the oil and gas from the earth, we bring it to Houston and we turn that into gasoline and jet fuel, but also chemicals and plastics and all of those things. So because of that, Houston is really a leader, perhaps the top leader in the country when it comes to manufacturing output. But what I'm seeing that's really interesting is there's kind of a shift a little bit where we're still super big in the energy space, but that's also renewables now. So we have a ton of solar manufacturing that's popping up. We also have, you mentioned Eli Lilly. So we have life sciences, electronics, and kind of computer equipment manufacturing that is starting to choose Houston as its home because we already have that manufacturing workforce. We have the port so that they can import materials and export products, and affordability, really all of the things coming together to make Houston kind of a top spot for manufacturing.
And when they say, what makes it a top spot, right? Like, so if obviously you talked about a lot of the shift and some of the other things that are coming, but what is it about the layout of Houston or the design of Houston that makes it such an attractive place for all these people to come to us? I think especially as people are pushing more and more towards onshoring and looking for creative ways to bring work to us, it's exciting for our region. So what are you guys seeing that's allowing us to position ourselves to be really the place for manufacturing to continue to grow and scale?
So I think it's really Houston's diverse ecosystem, right? You look at Houston being the oil and gas energy capital of the world, but also Houston is has the largest medical district in the U.S., maybe in the world, definitely in the U.S. And so the med center there that employs, there's constantly 10,000 plus active jobs there, but
that's crazy.
There's so many different sectors that if you're in manufacturing that you can directly or indirectly work with. So just the other month, I had the opportunity to go to this Netherlands. I'm going to say Netherlands, but they corrected me when I was there. They said it's Netherlands. I was like, okay, I got it. So this Netherlands economic forum, and really what they do. So it's for a biomanufacturing forum, and so there was about 20 to 30 different businesses that came in from the Netherlands to explore. Okay, if I'm going to bring my business here to America, like which regions do I want to move my business to? So they went to like New York, California, here in Houston, and they all said, so I was like, okay, like why would you pick Houston over, any of those other cities? And he goes, well, like we have to find the differentiator, like what's different about Houston. And when you look at like for biomanufacturing, you look at, the medical center, you look at Helix Park, so the medical center is already, built out. So TMC is building out Helix Park, which is going to produce millions of other jobs. It's already started to, and, more adding just more people to the workforce. So you just look at, Houston sets other cities apart by being able to connect manufacturers with oil and gas, with medical, with other industries too. So I think, that really helps us out a lot.
Talk to me about the importance of our, I would say supply chain logistics, the ability for us to get things in and out of this country probably better than anybody else in the region. Talk to me about the importance of that when you see it, what you've heard from other individuals when they're bringing their manufacturing to Houston.
Absolutely. So, I think a big part of that is frankly just our location. We're very centrally located. So when you're talking about, California, the East Coast, people considering those as options, if you have customers or suppliers all across the country, that's a really long way to transport all of those products if you're on a coast, well, on the East or the West Coast. But us being on the Gulf Coast, we're very centrally located so that they can more easily access customers and suppliers across the country. But also, again, the Houston Ship Channel is a massive, massive body of assets that Houston has. And, it is the largest port in the country in terms of tonnage, waterborne tonnage. Okay. And I believe we're the 5th largest container port as well. And that's growing.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yes. And so, a lot of that tonnage is going to be in kind of liquid products, petroleum products, but the container port is growing as well. And so that makes ease of access just astronomically higher for these companies. We also have a lot of transportation. I know there's some progress maybe that people will say needs to happen on the roads and in the highways, but we also have access to rail and just having that port access to be able to ship products, import products across the world makes things so much more helpful, especially if we end up onshoring a lot of manufacturing capacity. If those manufacturing projects are coming to the US, that is not only more opportunities for us to domestically supply the US economy, but it also creates more opportunities for exports.
Right.
And so that's where the Houston Ship Channel comes into play as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. I always forget about rail, right? We don't talk, because it's just old school, like trains. But I was at a peer of mine, and they've got a rail yard in the Mont Bellevue, kind of out in that area. And there's a huge rail yard on one side, and then this other one that's being built in the inner part of the area. And lined up throughout, as far as you could see, were just empty train cars. I mean, it looked like when you kind of drive over the ship channel and you see all those empty containers.
Yeah.
But it was that of just train cars. And,
Wow.
and he's like, they just rotate in and out of there all day long, just stacking them up with stuff coming out of here, throwing them on a train. And then it doesn't matter where you're at, what part of Houston. I mean, it's as huge as our footprint is. You're always going to get stuck at some type of pissed off at some train.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what the heck? I'm stuck behind this train. And it remind you, it's because we got trains everywhere. Right.
Yeah.
And you just kind of forget about that here and what they're doing and the impact that they're making.
Absolutely.
Right? So, Case, before we go any further, just want to remind you, too, if anyone ever corrects you, because we're from Texas, on how you say what they said, right?
Yeah.
Just remind them they're in Texas.
Yeah, that's right.
From now on, they need to say it our way.
Yeah, that's right. I'm with.
That's just their rule, right?
That's
Anytime I'm ever corrected by foreign folks, they're like, no, it's pronounced. I'm like, no, it's pronounced how I said it here.
Yeah.
But whenever you get back home, call it whatever you like.
I love it.
We're going to continue to call it what we call it. Thank you very much. Welcome to Texas.
Welcome to Texas.
Yeah, and then you kick a little dirt on them with your boot. So that's how that works. Just kidding. But if we were to talk about some of the policies, some of the stuff that you're seeing in regards to tariffs, onshoring, initiatives to support the manufacturing area. Who wants to take that one?
I can take that one.
You got that one? All right. Come on, Energy Reporter. Fire away.
Yeah. Well, so tariffs are an ever-changing challenge that companies have to face. A bit of background. Last year in April, President Trump announced that he was going to have all these reciprocal tariffs, he called them, on Liberation Day. I believe it was April 2nd. And pretty much every single country in the world was slapped with a bunch of tariffs that American consumers really would have to pay for if they were importing those products. So that really kicked off a wave of people looking to find domestic supply chains. And I say kicked off, but actually I'll go back a little bit to President Biden because he pushed through legislation. So Congress under President Biden pushed through legislation that had tax credits for domestic manufacturing, specifically of clean energy products as well. And so that was actually probably really when kind of the onshoring initiatives really kicked off, but they were...
Well, I think if we went back, it probably goes all the way back to COVID. I think COVID was a really big kind of eye-opening experience for everybody because I know personally my clients suffered a lot of pain in COVID not being more equipped internally with how at least alternative suppliers. But you're correct.
Absolutely. And that's a great point.
There's been a big shift, I guess, in the last 5 years of focus there. Yeah.
I think people really took for granted before COVID the supply chain and how
100%.
complex it is and how just one hiccup in the supply chain can really have a massive ripple effect along to consumers. So anyway, now there's a big push for domestic manufacturing, and that's in a lot of different sectors. So it's not just in energy and renewable energy and the life sciences, technologies, and especially in computer and electronic equipment, but we're also seeing shipbuilding as well. Davy Defense is investing, up to $1 billion, I've heard, in shipbuilding assets in the Texas Gulf Coast, including in Galveston. And so, there's just a huge surge in this industry. But again, tariffs are ever changing. A couple weeks ago, the Supreme Court actually struck down Trump's reciprocal tariffs, but not all of his tariffs. So there's still 50% tariff on steel and aluminum products, which that really adds up for manufacturers. And so that in turn is really pushing people to want to find domestic supply chains for steel. So it's a lot of moving parts that are changing very quickly, because even though those tariffs, the reciprocal tariffs, were struck down by the Supreme Court, Trump has other ways to enact tariffs. And so that's something that the industry is constantly going to be keeping an eye on, constantly finding solutions to. But at the end of the day, having a domestic supply chain creates at least some stability in knowing what you're going to get from the federal policies in the sense of tariffs.
At least as we continue to advance our onshore manufacturing and continue to look for ways to do that, I think the fact is it's a combination of everything, right? Building it both outside and inside the U.S. and coming up with the right solutions so that we're not beholden to one.
Exactly.
I think we spent God knows how many years where the consultants and the brainwave, all the brain power was, you're a genius if you took everything you could offshore, right?
Yeah.
That was the idea.
Yeah.
And then we kind of learn, and then we kind of have to pivot back and figure things out. And so I think it's always a combination. It's never a matter of either or. It's always a matter of and. But sometimes people have to learn that the hard way. We got to figure out how to do it the right way.
Exactly. Because even if you're onshoring, that can be an increase in cost.
In cost, right.
Absolutely. So it's balancing
figuring
all of
it
those
out.
costs.
So. Well, cool. Well, Casey, why don't you hit me or hit us a little bit with some of the great events and things that we have going on? Yeah. You guys have a ton of stuff happening. So
there's a lot going on. And so just kind of like what Naomi was talking about with the manufacturing sector and just that surge in demand for that content, whenever we host events, so right, we host discussion panel events, typically on oil and gas, typically on alternative energy, the economic forecast. We've never done a manufacturing event, but just last year with the impact of tariffs, like our readers want to know, how does this impact my business? How can I stay abreast, and what do I need to know to it's not an either or, it's an and. Like, what can I do to continue to position myself, my team, my company in the forefront for growth? And so we're like, okay, we recognize there's a need for that. And definitely we have, our digital and print platforms to produce this content on. But a lot of what our audience they want to hear from these individuals. They want to create connections. They want to meet in person. So we were like, okay, we're going to host a Made in Houston Gulf Coast discussion panel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was. So we actually just hosted it at our new office space downstairs at the event center room. Earlier this week on Tuesday. And, a good indicator of a successful event is obviously if the room's packed, and then also just how engaged people are in the conversation. So happy to report that it was sold out. It was like there were people standing up in the back of the room there. So there was a lot of people sold out in that room. But also the audience, so typically it's like a 45-minute to an hour-long discussion panel conversation with the panelists and the moderator, and then we open it up for 15 minutes Q&A. And typically, we struggle with like, hey, audience, like any questions, right? But no, everyone just kept on, asking. I think we were like 15, 20 minutes past the time, and we eventually had to cut it off. But then afterwards, everyone stayed around for about an hour after the event concluded, just so the audience can connect with those panelists. So that's when like, okay, this content is relevant and is providing value to our audience. So we can't wait to do that again next year. Okay. And again, can't wait to see what that's going to look like. We are also about to host a Who to Know in the Bay Area. So we report on all of the great work and impact that this region has to the greater Gulf Coast region and Houston region. But we really felt like it was time to show a spotlight on the influencers and leaders in this region, like Chad Burke, like Brenda Hellier, Brian Friedman. So it's a content series that we started at the beginning of the year. So each week, and maybe Naomi can talk to it more, because I know her and her team produce this content series. But each week for We report on 2 different industry leaders here in this region, and then it culminates at the very end on April 1st. It is not an April Fool's joke. We'll host a event at Bay Oaks Country Club to recognize all of the shakers and movers in this region. It's a chance
cool.
just to hear from them, and what they're doing in this region. So
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he mentioned you're involved in that with your team. Are you guys, because I guess you guys are in the trenches, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you know who the who's is.
Yes.
The who's who. The who's who.
Absolutely.
How do you say that?
Who's who? Yeah.
Who's who is the who?
Yeah.
Do you know who they are?
Yes,
Yeah.
I absolutely know who they are. But I mean, I will say I'm still meeting new people every single day. But we were very excited to be able to feature folks like Chad Burke, like Charlie Jenkins, like Roger Reist out in Galveston. We have folks that we're profiling over in Baytown
Nice.
and Pasadena at some of the, terminals and refineries around the region. And all of those stories are on Houston Business Journal. Most of them are already published. We've got a few more coming out still in ahead of the April 1st event.
Yeah.
But it's just been a pleasure, not just, again, like I said, reaching out to folks I've talked to forever, but
Right.
also getting to meet new leaders. Well, new leaders for me,
Yeah.
and maybe leaders that have been here for a decade, but I'm just meeting for the first time.
And for the April 1st event,
Yeah.
we're not kidding, right?
No, we're not. It's actually
You
happening.
actually show up. There's
Yeah.
people there, because that
Yeah.
would be really uncool, HBJ.
Yeah.
So when we get there, I mean, is it something people can go online and get tickets? Do you have to be a member? Do you have to be a member of any organization, or is it kind of open to the public?
It is open to the public.
Okay.
So if you want to attend the Who to Know in the Bay Area,
Okay.
you can go to HBJ website, go under events, and come check out Who to Know in the Bay Area.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Real quick, Casey, before we wrap up, if someone's interested, they're listening to this and they're thinking, man, I didn't know HBJ was involved in all that stuff. I'd like to become, make it to the who's list. They want to get involved. How do they plug themselves in and get plugged in to becoming either a sponsor or getting plugged in with HBJ?
Yeah, just don't hesitate to reach out. So you can contact me on our website. Under About Us, you'll see, if you scroll down to advertising, you'll see my name, my email address, Casey, it's ckiesewetter@bizjournals.com. My phone number is on there too. And happy to have a conversation. Yeah.
Good luck with spelling his name when you try.
Yeah, it's CKIESEWETTER.
There you
We can
go.
pause it. We can edit that. I was like, okay, what am I doing? That's
No, that's perfect. You're like, it's Casey, it's C Kiesewetter.
yeah.
That's super easy. And someone's in there like KEY
Yeah.
SWEATER Kiesewetter. It just keeps bouncing back. Yeah. So no, hey, you guys killed it today. Great to have you on the show. Before we wrap up, is there anything that we didn't capture today that you want to make sure our audience hears? No. Okay. Awesome. Cool. You guys did a fantastic job. Again, thank you to HBJ. They're such a great organization, such a great, really just I guess a cornerstone, I believe, in business and here in the Houston market. And I'm really grateful because this region, I think, and maybe it's because it's not sexy, right? Like, when you drive into River Oaks or you drive into certain parts of town or you're even in the energy corridor, there's big buildings and they're all beautiful. You come over here, it's like smokestacks and, cowboy boots and F-150s. And so I just, maybe people don't think about it as being a big deal, but it is. We're a great region, a great opportunity. You can't really go further west without getting to another state, and live in the Houston area, but we got a lot of great development happening out here on the east side, working its way towards Beaumont and so forth. So excited to have you guys as part of that growth journey. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to our audience, we want to thank you. Again, I would encourage you be there on April 1st. I think we're going to be celebrating some of the who's to know here in the Bay Area. And we're proud of those folks. And again, we're proud of having you as our audience, thankful for you being part of our journey. And as always, if you have some recommendations on folks we need to bring on the show, again, please shoot me an email. Give me any ideas or thoughts, or introduce yourself if you think you should be on the show. We'd love to hear from you and have you out. And other than that, stay tuned and we'll see you guys next week.